Welcome to this Chamber Low Carbon Live Lunch and Learn. I'm Stephen Sykes and I manage the Chamber Low Carbon Programme, and I'm your host for today's session. Just a few housekeeping items before we start. All participants are on mute, so if you have any questions, please use the Q&A facility at the bottom of your screen, and my colleague Darren Thomas and myself will be monitoring to capture your questions. Today's session is being recorded and will be available to watch again on the Chamber Low Carbon YouTube channel. For those unfamiliar with the programme, Chamber Low Carbon is brought to you by East Lancashire Chamber of Commerce in partnership with North and Western Lancashire Chamber of Commerce, Business Life Solutions and Boost, supporting businesses across Lancashire to go green, save money and reduce their carbon footprint. Part funded by the European Union, European Regional Development Fund, this £6 million programme provides a suite of free services to help businesses to improve energy and environmental efficiencies, introduce on-site renewable energy generation, and by doing so, save money. The programme also helps Lancashire businesses that are developing new low-carbon technologies to bring their products to market, facilitate them being manufactured in Lancashire, and help them to find demonstrator sites within Lancashire. Today's live Lunch and Learn will be delivered by Andrew Warner. Andrew is an independent energy manager who specialises in energy efficiency and cost cutting. He has a unique skill set and his track record, which has made him a leader in his field, has won him many prestigious clients, such as BMW UK, Starbucks, and Tetrosyl, to name but a few. Andrew works closely with accountants and business managers who share a common goal of helping their clients to save money and increase their margins. Andrew has vast experience in the manufacturing and food processing industries, with many success stories, including a number of local businesses who have saved thousands of pounds by employing the methods that Andrew has recommended. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Andrew and invite him to take over the screen.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon now. I'm not going to bore you to death with lots of technical detail or anything like this. This presentation today is about saving money. There's many other things that are in my skill set, but current conditions, I think most businesses' biggest concern and priority is cost cutting and protecting margin. Energy can be boring, and anything to do with it can be boring. So again, this is why I'm not going to go through all these details. What I am going to do is get your interest. I'm not quite sure who's on the who's watching, but if you've got any questions as we go along, please type them in, and again, Stephen will send them over to me, and I can talk to you about them. So first question is, why should you even be interested in this? I'm going to explain to you one of the biggest, I suppose, biggest motivations and reasons that whilst energy costs may only represent a small part of your outgoings, why you really should pay attention to them because of what's about to happen. Here's an example of a company, let's say, that spends £30,000 a year on energy. Now, I did this graph first in 2014, and I've kept the dates exactly the same because halfway at the midpoint, I can actually prove these figures are accurate. When I started my business, which was 2013, of course, at that time, I was predicting what was going to happen. Nobody really knew. Now, halfway through, we can. A company who was paying £30,000 in energy costs in 2014 are likely to be paying somewhere in the regions of about just short of 57,000 by 2025. And I'll guarantee that anybody that was paying that in 2014 who's either watching now or trading, if you look at your cost from 6 years ago today, not going to be far out if I say they're going to be around the 45,000 mark. So these numbers, as you can see, run along with that is, of course, GDP or your internal rate of growth, which means that for every £30,000 that you were making in profit, to let's say by the time 2025 comes around, that's probably going to be equivalent to around 40,000, which means energy costs have gone up way in excess of everything else. And if you deal with suppliers who have heavy energy costs, you can bet your life that their materials or services they provide to you are going to go up like that as well. This means that a company who started out 2014 with £30,000 energy costs will find themselves in a margin deficit of about nearly £17,000 through doing nothing. In other words, you've lost £17,000 worth of profit, and this is bottom line money. Of course, you imagine a business that has a 10% net profit before tax. That's equivalent to a £160,000 order every single year. So that's one of the reasons why you should do it. The reason that this is happening is this chart here. I don't know if you're aware or not, but most commercial electricity costs, nearly 40–50% of it is nothing to do with the energy itself. It's to do with all these things down here. I'm not going to bore you to death with what they are. They're either government levies or the transport costs, the infrastructure costs. They're all the things that are added in that are hidden into the bill. The problem is that these are the things that are going up faster than anything. So you'll hear some people talk about, well, energy hasn't gone up, or the wholesale energy hasn't gone up. It hasn't a great deal, but these have, and they're going to continue to go up. If you do me a favor, look down the left-hand side where it says pence per kilowatt on this slide, and you can see that in 2012, around about 4 pence per kilowatt or 4 pence per unit of your electricity cost were these pass-through costs. Fast forward to now, 2020, that's 8 pence per kilowatt. So you can see that's a significant amount. And going forward into 2021, 2 and 3, you can see where that's going. I don't know if you're aware or not, but an average electricity cost per kilowatt today is about 13p, 13.5 pence. Just look at that, 8 pence of that is now these extra commodity costs. So that's a really good reason why you should pay attention to it, because it's not, no matter what kind of deal you try and look for, you're not going to escape those costs, and they're going to keep coming. The outlook for the next 5 years is that that's going to continue to go and go like that. Here's the good news, however, and this is what I want to talk to you about today. Again, we're not going to make it a big, long, laborious conversation, but I'm just going to get straight to the point. People who are in heavy industry, manufacturing, food processing, certain other kinds of raw material business, typically have really high electricity costs, and gas for that matter. I'm mentioning electricity because that's the big culprit, but gas also falls into this. They typically have really high energy costs as part of what they have to do to manufacture. There's nothing really you can do about it. That's the way it is. So what the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy have done is, along with the HMRC, they've announced a exemption, an incentive for want of a better expression, which means that you can exempt yourself from most of those figures, most of those charges that I've just shown you on the previous screen. It means that if you qualify, you actually could get not the full 8 pence a unit off your electricity. It depends on what you do, but you could get a big portion of that taken off, and so in some cases even a refund going back to 4 years. So therefore, if you spend a lot of money on energy, these are significant amounts. Now, Stephen, I don't know if this is possible, but anybody that's watching, if somebody wants to give me a cost of what their energy costs are currently, roughly, what I'll do is I'll put it into this graph here, and it will quickly calculate how much money in savings and exemption that means to that person, that business. Is that something possible we can do?
I was going to say, if they type it in to the Q&A session, we can pick it up there.
Okay, so do you want me to move off this slide and come back to it afterwards?
Yeah, because at the moment no one's volunteered an energy cost yet.
Right. Okay. Well, when they do, when somebody puts that in, I'll go back and I'll show them how much that means to them. So whatever their energy costs are, I'll do this slide, and the figure in red is what you could end up getting back and having knocked off all future energy costs. Okay, we'll wait for those figures to come through, and then I'll come back to this. Now, here is the issue. This is a new exemption. It's a new incentive. But the problem is it falls between two stools. Part of it is an accountancy-led application. In other words, it's going to be somebody who's competent in accounting. They understand accounts, they understand how to calculate EBITDA, they can do something called deflation on figures. That's an accounting function. Not a problem for an accountant. However, the other part of it is an engineering function. Somebody has to go and analyze the equipment that is in these buildings and record how much energy they're using. And then you've got to do a technical calculation on what we'll call the absorption of the machinery, this kind of thing. That's an engineering function. Accountants can't do that. But by the same token, an engineer generally can't do the accountancy bit. So this has got left and it's fallen between two stools, and not a lot of people have picked up on it, which is very sad, but it's very good for me because I'm skilled in both. I can do both. And this is what I'm currently doing at the minute, which is why lockdown for me has been probably my busiest time of the last year and a half. So with that in mind, it's very important that you pick the right person to do this for you. There are some of us around that are doing it, but be careful because the amounts of money are quite large. As an example, so the last business I've just done, we've got them back £140,000. The HMRC will audit that. There is no way they're going to give you 140 grand back without checking to make sure it's done. I have seen some horror stories where some people have just sent in these applications, they've got the refunds, the company have used it, the HMRC a couple of months later have come and done an audit, found that they didn't qualify, they have to pay it back. Now, at the minute, it's being done on a self-certification basis, which means, yes, you've got to provide the evidence and put it all together, and you've got to send it off, but no one's really checking it at the HMRC as the application comes in. So it's really plausible that you could end up with the exemption when you don't qualify for it. But when the HMRC do the audit and they come back, trust me, if you have got the money and you shouldn't have had it, they'll want it back in 14 days. So be careful, because a lot of people have jumped on this who are less than scrupulous. You know, they're people who have seen a quick and easy way around. They know that HMRC aren't checking the applications and they're just sending them in when they're not compliant. So please be careful with that. I'm happy to advise you what is needed and talk you through the process if you want to ask later. Now, I can see that Stephen's raised his hand. Stephen Sykes, do you want to tell me what we do with that? Do you want to, Stephen Clark, has he got a question to ask? Okay, well, Stephen Clark, just if you can hang on for a second, because Stephen Sykes will probably come back to you and communicate in between on the chat function. I can't get at it.
I've just given Stephen Clark permission to speak.
Okay, right. Carry on, Stephen.
Hi. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Excellent. Right. We spend about £125,000 a month on electricity.
Right. So what was the last bit of that question, Stephen?
About £125,000 per month on electricity.
Okay.
Just
right.
that figure.
Right. Well, let me go back to this figure then. Just bear with me a second, because what I will have to do is just stop sharing the screen for a second, and I'm going to show you roughly what that's going to amount to as a rebate. Just give me one moment, please. Right, so I'll go back to the screen in a moment and I'll show you the figures. So Stephen, for you, the kind of exemption could be up to about nearly £24,000 every single.
How is that exemption made up? Because we do get the climate change levy.
Yeah, it's not climate change levy. It's something that's to do with the energy intensive industry legislation. CCL is one of those taxes that you saw on there, but this is to do with your RO and FIT, if you understand what those are. These are the renewable obligations and the feed-in tariff that you pay are the main ones that they will give you exemption over, and those are big. You know, they can be 2 or 3 pence a kilowatt.
Right, okay then. I know we actually use things like a buying consultancy. They go to the market and identify areas. So this is a question I need to pose to them.
Well, yeah, buying consultancy are basically brokers, for want of a better expression. They're procurement people who will go and trade your energy and buy your energy. And at that level, I would expect you buying something called flex energy. So I understand that. But again, being respectful but straight with you. If they knew about this, they should have come to you straight away about it. This was introduced last April, so it's been going over a year. But this is what I mean. There's not very many people that have picked it up. It's got nothing to do with procurement, to be fair. It doesn't affect the contracts you have. It doesn't affect the way they set up. It's nothing to do with that. So you can go ahead and carry on your same way of procuring your energy as you do, and then somebody else can do this bit completely separately, which has no effect on the way your energy procurement set up.
Fantastic. I'm going to do some research.
Okay.
Stephen or yourself will be passing details on about contacts.
Yes, the contacts will be available at the end of the session.
Apologies, Stephen. You know I'm always one for interrupting. I'll let you mute me again and get on with the presentation. Thank you.
You're always welcome.
Okay. So that kind of sums up what I was saying about be careful who you use, because again, if you get that wrong, obviously in Stephen's case, if he's got 6 months of £23,000 being refunded and all of a sudden the HMRC come back and want it back, that's a bit of a dent in your cash flow to have to find £125,000 to give them when you thought it was yours. So this is certainly why you should look at it. You can see the numbers why you should look at it, and also why you should make sure that who you get in to do it is an expert and has got experience, successful experience at it. Okay, this is a big one. A lot of people that I have spoken to about this, very keen, but of course they've got a lot of other things very important going on, and I totally understand that. They've got furloughed staff, they've got clients that they're trying to service, they're trying to keep the business alive. So this sometimes again becomes a bit of a back burner, but there's a reason you should get on with it straight away. If you think you qualify, do something. If you pick a consultant who's good at this, typically what will happen is they will take a bit of information off you, but then they will go away and do it on their own. Certainly that's the way I work. My main function is to make sure that I'm not putting any pressure on my clients' resources or time. So a few things just need to be got in information first and then off they run. So it shouldn't affect your time, meaning there should be no reason why you don't get on with it straight away. Here's the reason you should get on with it straight away. What you see in front of you are 4 similar type of government incentives that were introduced to allow businesses that have large energy costs or want to invest into some kind of green technologies, anything like that, to benefit. These are all gone. None of them exist anymore. Well, apart from the annual investment allowance, but that's significantly reduced. The feed-in tariffs from renewable energy equipment has gone. That doesn't exist. You get export payment, that's it. Carbon trust funding is gone. The enhanced capital allowances, there is a question mark over that, but it's effectively gone, and the annual investment relief. When we come out of this current lockdown period, I'm pretty certain that the Treasury will be looking to recover the money that it's cost them. And so therefore, the first thing that's going to get the chop are things like this. Once you've qualified for it, they can't take it off you, but they can withdraw it at any time. And I will bet that this will not be available in 6 months' time. So grab it with both hands while it's available, because it's very generous. I've never seen anything as generous as this. And certainly it could be a lifeline to some businesses, particularly if cash flows are getting tight. So no cost to the business to get it. So, and therefore I can't think of a reason why you shouldn't do it straight away. Okay, that's the end of that bit. Again, I'm not going to go into too much technical detail because it might not be relevant to anyone, but certainly after the meeting, you're welcome to contact me and we can have a discussion as long as you like. You can ask lots of questions that are pertinent to you and your business. But if there's any questions somebody wants to ask now, please raise your hand or make Stephen aware.
We don't appear to have any questions at this point.
I'll take that as a good sign that I've explained everything then, rather than I'm boring.
I would go with the fact that you've explained the things perfectly clear. But I think the other thing is that a lot of people might not necessarily have access to their energy bills at the moment, unlike Mr. Clark, who clearly did. No,
I mean the questions can be anything that's come out of that, but that's fine. Hopefully everybody will have opportunity to contact me directly afterwards if they think of something later or they want to discuss something privately.
Well, I was going to say what we'll do at the end of the session. The slides will be made available on the Chamber Low Carbon website, but we'll also email all the participants with your contact details.
Yep,
If
that's
that's
right.
okay.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, like I say, I'm not seeing any. No hands have been raised, nor any questions have come forward. So if you could move us on to the next slide, please, Andrew.
There you go.
So with there being no further questions, I'd like to thank Andrew for his time, expertise and insights today, and also thank you for your attendance. We hope you found it of interest. To find out about our next event, or indeed any previous live lunch and learns, please go to the Chamber Low Carbon website for more details and register, and you can find the YouTube channel there. Please keep in touch with us via the media channels on your screen now. And until we see you again, on behalf of Andrew, the Chamber Low Carbon team and myself, be alert and stay safe. Look after yourselves.